Hey guys, Radical Reggie here, and today we are going to talk about the PlayStation Vita, pretty much the future of the system from today. The system came out in 2011. I got one around 2012. Very impressed with the system. I would say it's probably my third favorite handheld of all time. But I just want to talk about the news about the physical media in America being canceled for it in America and European territories. So let's take a look. So recently, Sony announced that they were going to cancel physical media for the system in America and European territories for pretty much the fiscal year of 2018. So that means I believe that's in June where they're going to either turn in all your orders for it, and the last games they'll be selling off is probably early, I think March of next year. But I could be wrong about that. Let me know in the comments. Now, was I sad about this news? Not really. I knew it was coming. I mean, I pretty much thought that the 2018 was going to be like the big final year for the system. We did get some exclusives for it, like games like Sir Eats a Lot and a couple others I can't think of right now. But this is not a bad thing. But the problem with the Vita was it's always that, you know, the memory. Okay, let's not beat around the bush. The memory cards. I mean, they want you to download these games, but they take up so much space. And these memory cards, the biggest one you get even now, it's like 64 gigs, and that, you know, a lot of these games take up like almost 5 to maybe even 6 gigs of space. So you don't really have too many options when it comes to downloading AAA games or games that just take up much room. That's always been a problem for the system. I mean, seriously, Sony really hurt their own system by doing that. So that was always a big thing with me. Even now, I just got a 64 gig memory card, probably I think around Christmas. I got one as a gift, and when they first came out, it was pretty much like half the price of the Vita system. So a lot of people didn't have it, you know what I mean? So it's like, it's tough, you know. That's why I've been a big guy on physical media for the system. You know, the less room it takes up, the better. Where physical games, some of them don't really install themselves, or some partially install themselves to the system to help the game run smoother. I just always felt that that's the best way to do with the system. But now with the announcement of physical media in America and European countries going away, like I said, I knew this was coming. But in Japan, where the Vita is going strong, there still is physical media happening. So Japan has access to those cards. So a lot of people might think that it's over for in America or in European countries for physical, but you can actually get physical games from companies like PlayStation who are putting out new games for the system. Even companies in America or European countries, they could probably reach over to Japan and somehow get access to those cards. So I don't think it's a big thing. You know, like I said, if it's going strong somewhere, I mean, it's good for everybody. And in Japan, it hasn't slowed down at all. Now, I have around, I would say, 70 games for the system, and that's a good selection of games, you know what I mean, for a lifetime of a system. You know, if you get a system, and, you know, any system, you get at least 10 to 20 good games on it that you could play, the system is worth having. So I have around 70 games, and that makes it definitely worth having. I think one of my things with the Vita is I knew what it could have been. I honestly think Nintendo took cues from Sony with the Vita, and they actually did everything right with their Switch. You know, the Vita should have been what the Switch was pretty much, but, you know, I don't want to go thinking about that because I'll get all sad. But anyways, going back to the games though, you know, I have around 70 games, and I feel like that's a good selection of games to have for a lifetime of a system. You know, going back and playing these games, I haven't played a lot of them yet, but you know, I'm happy that I have them. And now that the system is kind of closing out, you know, I kind of like look back at it and like, wow, you know, the Vita really did well for what it had going for, with the support it had. And it's been brilliant that a lot of these, Sony hasn't really supported it. I mean, they supported it to where they would try to make patches for it so people couldn't do certain custom firmware on it. But everybody else who was out there trying to make physical media for it, like Limited Run, Strictly Limited, who else? Signature Edition Games and other companies, they were putting games out for it, which was awesome. They really, I mean, brought the system. I mean, the system probably would have died in people's eyes a few years ago, but thanks to companies like that, the Vita is going strong. Is going stronger than ever, in my opinion. You know. Now, as far as the future of the Vita, like past 2019, we still will be getting games for it past the physical releases, but a lot of it will be digital games being from the store and that you have to download. I'm not really all for that. I'm trying to pretty much just get what I can get physical, and then that's it. You know what I mean? I do want Sony to come out with a successor, but I just don't think it's going to happen. They've made too many mistakes, and right now they're pretty much focusing on the PS5. I'm pretty sure, since the PS4 is probably at the end of its life cycle. But going back to the Vita again, though, you know, like stuff like the PlayStation TV, which is the Vita, pretty much a console version of the Vita. I felt they dropped the ball with that. You know, even though you could mod it to play all games, it's too much, for me at least, it's too much headache. You know, I want them to mod it where it could just play everything, where you don't have to be online and do too much coding. But yeah, that's another story. But anyways, the PlayStation TV was a cool item, you know what I mean, for what it was. It plays, I think, around 70 to 75% of all the games on the system, so there's that compatibility with it. But you know, it's hard to recommend. Even my buddy Marcus, you know, he has a Vita TV, PlayStation TV, but he doesn't really play it because, you know, a lot of the games on it, some of the games, excuse me, aren't compatible, and I think he lost interest with it like that. So it's kind of like just collecting dust for him. But still a very cool device. Once they're able to hack that to where it's able to play everything 100% without too many like freaking mods or being online or doing all these weird things for it, it'll be great. I'm just sitting and waiting for that. But I think what the Vita really needs, though, is a bigger memory card. I mean, seriously, if someone could make a bigger memory card or some kind of mod for the memory card where you get more space, that would be fantastic. But I don't know if we're going to see that happen. So, man, I don't know. The Vita, to me, I don't know which was more successful. I believe the PSP was more successful because Sony didn't really hold the PSP back. You know, the only thing that really did hold the PSP back was probably the UMD disc loading. But other than that, that was a great system. I just think Sony really killed the Vita with the memory card thing, and it's kind of sad because they're not really apologetic about the system. They're kind of like trying to phase the system out without saying anything, so that's kind of annoying to me. I don't really know what else to say about it. You know, it's just, I've never seen a company just try to kill their system like that. You know what I mean? It's pretty sad. So maybe Sony shouldn't do handhelds anymore after what happened with the Vita. You know, they don't deserve it. You know, I couldn't imagine them killing off another system. But let me know what you guys think in the comments about this whole situation about the Vita. Are you guys Vita fans? You know, what do you think of the PlayStation Vita? A lot of people, when they pull out the Vita, some people, they compare it to the 3DS. I think the Vita blows the 3DS out of the water, but then again, the 3DS had a lot of support. It was cheaper to make games for, what I believe. I think another problem with the Vita was that it was way expensive to make games for it, because we were promised a lot of games like BioShock and a couple other exclusives that we never got for the system, and it was just probably too costly for the developers because the return wouldn't have been good for them. So, you know, there's that. You know, the Call of Duty game fell flat. That game didn't have any development. That game was rushed anyway, so they got what they deserved on that one. You got to develop your games before you put them out. You can't just rush a game and throw it out there like that, think everybody's going to buy it. It's not going to happen. We want development into our games. Another thing I wanted to say is that I knew it was the beginning of the end when this. I meant to say this in the beginning of the video, but Coma Recut, which is a survival horror game, I actually have the PS4 version, and a Signature Edition Games had announced it for Vita. Well, they didn't silently cancel it for the Vita. They made an announcement that didn't really get out to a lot of people, but when it got canceled for the Vita, I just knew something was going on, because in the same tweet that they had canceled the game in, they say, hey, but you get the Switch version, which is coming out soon. They said they canceled the Vita title and then announced a Switch version in the same tweet. So I already knew where this was going. And I think they could develop it for the Vita if they wanted to, but they just don't want to. And then they got to turn it in within a certain amount of time. So I get it. But still, you know, it would have been great to have a survival horror game like this on the Vita. I may get it for the Switch. I already own it on PS4, so I don't really see a reason to buy it again. But yeah, stuff like that kind of like really was a downer. I was really hoping that game would get released for the system. But, you know, hey, that's what happens, so it's all good. So, anyways, guys, let me know what you guys think in the comments about the Vita and what's going on with it. Do you think it'll last longer than 2019? I mean, maybe it'll go all the way to 2021 or 22. Who knows? I mean, I may be pushing it, but I don't know. If like I said, if you have access to those cards, these companies have access to those the cards, and they can make more games, and yeah, they'll be limited. But you know, as long as they can get access to them, I think we'll have more Vita games. But anyways, guys, Radical Reggie, and I will see you later.